Welcome to The Last Track, where we help people showcase the last track of their life story in their final wishes. I am your host, Brian Norris, the co-owner of Bateman Funeral Home in Newport, Oregon. Just like a song can bring you back to a day, a time, and a memory, so too can a well-planned service. Today, we're going to be talking about travel protection plans in the funeral industry. What exactly is that? So when you're making your pre-arrangements with your funeral home that you're going to be visiting, one of the questions that you're going to want to ask them is, what happens if I'm traveling away? What happens if I'm in, let's say, for example, you live in Texas and you're visiting a family member in Portland, Oregon, and you pass away in Portland, Oregon, because none of us know when we're going to die. Ask them that question, because when you're making pre-arrangements and you're trying to get everything set in stone so that you leave everything taken care of, that is one of the things that sometimes people forget and they overlook, because they can have everything set up for if they pass away in their hometown. But what if you're traveling? So one of the things that we do, and a lot of the large companies, the big corporation companies do, is they sell a travel protection plan. And we do that as well. We're just a small family funeral home, but we work with a company called International Emergency Assistance. And I'm going to be just basically saying IEA going forward. But the International Emergency Assistance Travel Protection Program is one that is worldwide. It's been in business since 2002, and it's a protection plan. And we'll talk about that for a second. What is the difference between insurance and this protection plan? Because this isn't an insurance policy. This is actually a protection plan. So different than insurance, you pay one time and it's done for life. You don't have payments on a monthly basis, that kind of thing. You do it for each individual person in the family that you want to cover. So example, if I was doing it for my household, I would purchase a plan for me, and I would purchase a separate plan for my wife. If I had children in the home, I would maybe also include a separate protection plan for each person. So you don't designate beneficiaries like you do in insurance. So when you pass away, it gets paid out, that type of thing. It's a little bit different than that. It's a protection plan. So if you're more than 75 miles away from your home, so your home of residence, and if you move, you just make sure you update your plan. So if I moved from Newport, Oregon to Portland, Oregon, I would make sure that I update the company, IEA, with my new residence, my new home of residence. So if I'm traveling more than 75 miles away, that's when this protection plan essentially kicks in and helps to cover you. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's just say I'm sitting down with you today and you say, Brian, I want to have a protection plan so that if I pass away more than 75 miles away, what does this cover? So I would ask, now, are we talking about burial or are we talking about cremation? There's two different plans. There's a standard plan, which covers the cremation. So if you were to pass away more than 75 miles away, what would happen is somebody would contact IEA. IEA has licensed funeral directors that are working in the company. They contact a local funeral home wherever you're traveling. It could be Madrid, Spain. And they would take care of getting you picked up, taken into the care of a funeral home, a reputable funeral home in the area. They would take care of everything for you. They would meet with the next of kin. They would facilitate the cremation process. And then they would make sure that your cremated remains get sent home. And that would be back here if you were talking to me. and then we would get the cremated remains here, and then we would move forward with your final arrangements, whether that would be to be returned to a family member, to be scattered, to be placed in a garden, that type of thing. Then we would take care of everything else. Now, let's say if you were planning on being buried, and let's just use that example again. You're in Madrid, Spain. If you were to pass away in Madrid, Spain while you're on vacation, then again, you would contact IEA. They would have, on the other end of the line, they would take the information. They would contact a reputable funeral home in Spain, in Madrid, Spain, have you prepared. So they would do the embalming and do everything else. And then they would take care of shipping your whole body, your remains, back to Newport, Oregon. I would receive those. I would go to the airport, take you into our care, bring you back down here, and then we here in the funeral home with your pre-arrangement would execute the rest of what you have pre-arranged, whether that to be buried in one of the local cemeteries here, to be buried at National, Willamette National if you're a veteran, that type of thing. We would execute the rest of the pre-arrangement at that point. And that is actually considered a plus plan. So 2 different plans, burial or cremation, 2 different prices for burial or cremation. And currently, for my prices here in my area, and I don't normally like to talk about prices, but I'd like to give you an example. If you were to do a cremation plan, which is a standard plan, we currently are now charging $399. So for $399, you would be guaranteed to be picked up and taken care of anywhere in the world. And I want to specify, as long as we have United States representation in that country. For example, if we were sitting somewhere in China and we don't have an embassy there, in that particular part, then we don't cover that. The IEA doesn't cover that area. We have to be able to get you out of the country. Some places in the world just aren't that great of a place to be right now. For $399, that covers everything from being cremated, taken care of, and shipped back to the funeral home that you have the plan with. Burial, same thing. $499, it's only $100 more, and that covers everything. And that's if you're in Spain. And I know that and I use that example because IEA has taken care of a family member, not mine, but I have seen them take care of a family member that has worked with us in Spain and bring them all the way back for $499. And that would just be the call to take you into the care over there in Spain. That covers everything. So those give you some examples of how it works. You can, if you're interested in IEA, you can actually go to their website, and that's www.ieaco, like company, ieaco.com. And you can see more information about what they cover, how it works. There's an initial 30-day for free, that for money back, that type of a thing. There are a few requirements. You have to be over 21, U.S. citizenship. You need to be able to be more than 75 miles away, and then all of that works. Everything that we talked about. And honestly, that's actually, if you're trying to make sure everything's taken care of so that your family doesn't have to worry about it, and you're doing all your pre-arranging, all of that work to get the pre-arrangement in place, that's the one thing that people forget. And I'd just like to remind people, even Gene Bateman, who owned this company, was on vacation in Arizona when he passed away. So none of us know where we're going to pass away. Every podcast we take a moment, and we take a moment to remember all the families that are experiencing a loss and to light a virtual candle in their memory. So let's take a moment and remember them. This has been The Last Track. I'm Brian Norris, and you can find out more information about Bateman Funeral Home at our website at batemanpacificview.com, or you can visit us on Facebook. If you have any feedback or any questions about today's episode, you can leave us some feedback on our Facebook page, or you can give us a call, 541-265-2751, or you can email us at info@batemanpacificview.com. We'd love to hear from you.